Good evening, everyone. Welcome to class number 13 of Advanced Course in Drones for Development. This class is going to be dedicated for public health emergencies. As we all know, that public health emergencies never come announced. We had a similar situation across the world in the form of the global pandemic of COVID-19, and various countries had did their own ways of tried their own ways of combating this disease. In India, we tried an experiment of engaging almost 200 local drone pilots who were ready to work with the local government as volunteers, and they were ready to and they used their drones for surveillance, for public announcements, and for crowd control. One of the team leading this entire effort was Saga Defense Engineering in Mumbai. They, along with Drone Federation of India and the Mumbai Police, had put up a brave front and used innovations and used more ideas to help the government, help the police do a better lockdown initiation. So today we are going to talk to Captain Nikunj Parashar from Saga Defense Engineering, who would give his side of the story as to how it all happened, what were the challenges, how did they team up, how did they build the partnerships, and what did they learn from this entire exercise. So over to you, Captain Nikunj Parashar.
Uh, I was a master then. My third mate called up and said, Captain, I hear there is a bit of a heavy roll and pitch and pounding in certain section of the vessel. So I said, okay, it's okay. Just come down on the speed of the vessel and we'll see it in the morning. Because what do you do at middle of the night? But at 4, he woke me up again and said, we are listing. So basically, we are tilting to one side. And I could see we had tilted to one side by good 10 degrees. And that was quite alarming. So I got up my first mate and I said, we need to inspect. So the basic thing, a ship construction, if you look at a ship, it is tanks at the below and there are cargo holds. If somebody has not. So imagine a container which is empty. So you go and take soundings. So you go and dip and you take soundings across and check what is the water level in there. What we found was one of the tank was taking in a lot of water. Now that was a matter of concern. So we headed. So immediately we checked, we looked at our stress conditions and we realized that we had to go for a port of refuge immediately. Towards a one-day sailing, we had Rio de Janeiro, which was just a 24 hours of sailing away at a reduced speed. So we entered harbor in Rio de Janeiro for a safe passage. Moment I entered there and quite comfortable, inside a port, so I know I'm safe. I'm not going to lose my vessel. All the support is going to be there. So we have something called port state control. They come on board and they inspect. Now, this was something which I was not prepared for. So we go inside and port state comes on board and says, in last 24 hours, a merchant ship has collided with a fishing vessel. And I was like, okay, so we would like to do a thorough inspection of your vessel because we doubt that you may have collided. Now, this was something I was not prepared for. Then the event takes further turn. And what it comes to is the diver comes on board and they go for inspection. When they go for inspection, what they find there is fishing nets in my propellers. The next hour, exactly what happens is they pick me, they pick my first mate, and the second officer, the second mate in whose watch exactly we had noticed the first event where we found that there was something wrong with the vessel, and we were taken to an hotel with policemen posted outside. For next 16 days, every day morning from 8 to 5, we used to go to the police station, sit there, give our statements, and come back. What went in my mind throughout? And this is something we all need to think. In any kind of emergencies, your thought run all around. That did my second mate actually collided and he hid it from me? Did he fudged all the documentations? So was my trust level there with my team members or not? So, all these kind of thoughts were happening and we were mixed nationality. So I was Indian. My first mate was a Danish and the second mate was a Malaysian. So all these thought processes started going in. But I knew and I believed, because I was sailing with my second mate for good 4 months, that he was a very upright person and he would never do such a thing. So I trusted, and we stuck to our statements till the end of 16 days. At the end of 16th day, the result came out that the vessel merchant ship which actually collided with that fishing vessel was not us, it was somebody else. Now, why I said this to you is emergencies always come unexpected. The worst and the good can come out of you is only during time of an emergency. And this is very important to remember, because you may panic, you may not trust your people, and there are reasons for it, because you may not have the competence, you are not prepared for it, or you may not have people around you who could guide you well. So we need to be very well prepared when we are going to deal with an emergency. And this was something very important when COVID-19 had really kicked in here in India. I was one of the COVID suspect, isolated in a room, and used to be in constant touch with Ruchi over WhatsApp, and she was in Nepal. So I remember a discussion very well. And he said that, Nikunj, can't we do something with the drones here in Mumbai across? And apparently I was not sure about it. And I said, listen, Ruchi, the flights are running up and running. And this is Mumbai. This is an urban city, a metropolitan city. How do you expect me to push it and take out my drone out there and start doing a survey? Start assessing what people are doing across. Is there is a big gathering out there? And she was continuously asking, why can't we do something about it? Why not? Why it is not? Why is government not looking at it? And this was a question also which was going in my mind. But what I realized is the drone industry is very heavily regulated. So in times of emergency, if the administration is not on your side, and if you want to operate these platforms, rather for a good cause, your intentions are right, but still you could land up in a soup. And there could be a much bigger problem at your hand to the cause of what you were trying to run across. So then I wait it. Then the news comes across to me that in Jabalpur, and she sends across me this photograph that one of her team has already started delivering the medicine and started working with the local team out there. Still, they did not have the permission, but they were able to do, because this was tier 2, tier 3 city. And the thought kept coming into me. And I was like, why could I not do anything like this here in Mumbai? Because regulations, metropolitan city, and administration. So in any kind of emergency, we cannot overlook these three things. But yes, if you compare a tier 2 and a tier 3 city, it is possible, because there was not much urban air traffic. So when you look at drones, they generally fly in airspace G. Now, what is an airspace G? Which is an airspace golf. Now, this is an airspace golf, an airspace which is highly unregulated. You have visual line of flights happening. So your helicopters, they fly in. You do not have any corporate jets which fly in this airspace. So they may not have a collision avoidance aid. So imagine your drone flying out there and you land up colliding with a helicopter. But Ruchi was pushing me in for it and said, Nikunj, we need to assess. Now, when these thoughts were going in, I was sitting in the isolation, but my team was also prepping for it, that there would be an opportunity would come across. When you look for something like this, and you are looking at working on at such a large scale in an epidemic or in a pandemic where the whole world is being troubled, what do you need to assess? What is the most important aspect for you to look at, that if you come in a position to help, what are the factors as a team, as an individual, as a leader, as a head of an organization, as a head of a small group, what things you should keep in mind? So first, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Now, when you know your weaknesses, that means you know your limits, that you know when to say no for it. So you need to look at your team strength. Now, when you have a pandemic like this, the other and the most important part of it is you need to start looking at is the administration going to support you? And if yes, then in what sections of the administration is going to support you? Because remember, when you go for help, you should not in turn become the one who's need to be rescued now. So where people are working in COVID scenarios, where pilots were there flying out there, you should not land up getting COVID yourself. So you need to see the administration you are working with it, are they fully prepared for it? And if not, then what precautions you are required to do? Then you need to plan. Now, planning is the most important part because in an emotional outflow, you may not only landing up and losing and wasting all the capital you have invested, at the same time, you may land up putting your team member at risk. So you need to plan very well. One, with respect to their health and safety, and second, with respect to the overall supply chain. Now, why is that? Now, we come from India, and there are some very big drone manufacturing companies here. We are one of the most smallest one and pretty new in that sector, I would openly admit. But this pandemic has really proved that as an ecosystem, as a drone manufacturing hub, we are nowhere there. So there was a huge shortage of raw materials out there. So a lot of dependency was on Europe, a lot of dependency on Korean countries, a lot of dependency was on Asian countries. So how could you make the best use of the raw material which is available? And finally, for a manufacturer, and look at me, so I'm the classic example, I'm a manufacturing team of only 24 people. So if I'm a manufacturer of 24 people, am I going to put my team out there to go and fly the drones also, pilot the drones also? So if I'm going to run my team to manufacture the drone and at the same time send them out for flying, then how am I going to execute or scale my overall product for support? So you need volunteers. And yes, most important is the funds. And these 7 things you need to keep in mind. And why I said fund in the last is, any for-profit working company or an organization could do 25% of work on their own. But if you expect a startup, if you expect an individual to go beyond his call of duty, then he may be highly motivated. But when it comes to monetary, he needs a substance for it. So funds are equally important. So you have to look around that could you get some fund for it? So keeping these 7 factors into my mind, we jumped in. So the most important for me was my team. Now in COVID, the lockdown was already put in. So out of 24, I was lucky enough to have 11 people who had access to the office and would just stayed close to 5 minutes walking distance from the factory. So they could walk in. Plus, they were the volunteers who were ready to work without being worried that there was a COVID pandemic rushing in and they could get infected. They were the warriors who were ready to put themselves at risk and go and get the raw materials directly. So we started looking into the team. So we divided our team into manufacturing, R&D, and logistic supports. What we took care was everybody maintained the physical distancing, the social distancing law very strongly. At the same time, proper hygiene care was taken. Plus, they had restricted themselves to the scope of work they were asked to. Then the actual golden moment came across. While I was in conversation with Ruchi, and it matters, I have put across in the hierarchy ways, India Flying Labs up top, then we have Drone Federation of India, and finally Mumbai Police, with whom we actually started the work. So what happened was, Ruchi built up the tempo in me, and she said that there should be an opportunity, and though an opportunity comes across, you need to do that. You need to work onto it. So what happened was, Drone Federation of India, they approached us towards in early March, towards the end of March and first week of April, and they said they have a very peculiar problem. And the peculiar problem was, there were drones out there, and you would see, if you go on the media coverages and look across, there were UAVs out there. And these UAVs had megaphones onto them. There's a lot being imported from China also. But the problem with them was the audibility range was not there. So you use a walkie-talkie. So if you're using a handheld walkie-talkie, you could go up to 200, 300, 400 meters. You want to increase the range, then you fly the drone up. So if you increase the altitude of the platform, then in that case, you can't hear what the person is trying to communicate. And Mumbai police, the key problem for us in Mumbai, especially the slums, in a 2 square kilometer area, you have 10 lakh people staying there. So they wanted to put across their messages in. So if you fly the drone very low, somebody can pluck it out of the air. If you fly the drone very high, they would not be able to hear it. So what do you do about it? Plus, the flying time of these platforms needed to be somewhere between 25 to 30 minutes. So we formed a partnership. And in this scenario, we went to the administration. We went to the administration and we went to understand their problem. So we had the first set of meeting with the administration. And we looked at them. And we guessed that what are you exactly looking at? So what they did was, and in these scenarios, remember in emergencies, in pandemic, organizations are in a far more better mental state to guide us than ourselves. Because we may run from pillar to post, trying to do something very innovative, very frugal, and then go to them. But remember, if you ask the organization that what do you exactly need, they would put that across to you. Now, this is where an innovator, a leader, a team player comes into picture, is decoded up and see what best you can give onto their requirements. At time when they ask you the sky, but you did not give them the sky, but you can give them something very close which will help them reach to the sky. So we went to the organization. Drone Federation of India was the middle team in between, and their duty was to do all the passes, all the vehicle arrangements, all the transportation arrangements for the team, and also for resourcing and getting the raw material to us. So what we realized is the police force was already on a very low morale. So they wanted to put across their communication. So they had a megaphone which was weighing around 2.5 kg. So that's around 4 lbs, 4 pounds of megaphone. And they wanted this megaphone to be mounted. But the problem of this megaphone was it did not have a walkie-talkie. Now, this is where frugal innovation comes into picture. So I was sitting with one of my engineer, and this engineer is on the extreme left with a yellow mask. If you see him, that's Saurabh. Now, brilliant comes out when you have problems, and these are the time the people, they step up. When you have a brilliant team member with you, they step up. So we were sitting and we were doing our hard editing with Smith and Deep out there and thinking about how could we do it? How could we give a real-time audio and transmission with a long range of flying without the worry of flying the drone at a very low array space? He said, could we connect our cell phones to the UAV? And if somehow we could dial up, we could call up the UAV, then we can directly talk to the UAV and pass on our informations. And this in itself was an amazing thought. Now, what we had to do here was, there is always an open source software available, so there was not much to write. Only thing, you encrypt it up. We actually hooked up a cell phone onto the UAV, and we had a second cell phone with us, and we started flying the drone. When we started flying the drone, in the initial period, my manufacturing team went across. We went across in deep with every policeman out there. We went across into the areas and slums, and we saw where actual operations had to take place. While doing this, we realized that certain areas were so small and they were just at times only 4 feet wide, that this platform could not fly autonomous. Because if you tried to fly this UAV or the drone autonomous, you would land up getting the platform entangled into wires. And mind you, this exactly happened. So on 2 occasions, and beautiful occasions, On one occasion, they tried to fly it autonomous and it landed up onto a tree. On second occasion, while they were flying up, they landed up sticking the GPS, which was mounted on top, onto the wire. And the platform went out of control. And that went to 70% loss of drone. Now, what do? You are not being paid. You have two platforms which have got damaged. Do you leave here or you repair it and come back onto the field? Now, this is very important. You need to know your limitation. Are you a manufacturer or are you an operator? Or are you that we were not operators? We realized we were very good manufacturers. So in this case, we needed to help and train these people even when there is a delay of a deployment by a week. So this was a call which was taken by us. What we also did is, though the platforms were heavily damaged, we carried out after-sales service completely free. On the other hand, Mumbai Police did a fantastic job. And what they did was, they roped in Reliance Industries to fund us for our two platforms. Now imagine a manufacturer who has gone out there and said that, okay, I do not need money for this platform, but I'm going to help you. But if you want to scale this up, then somebody will have to pay. But moment we did our after-sale service work free of cost, they saw there was an honesty in our work and they kept their promise and they got in Reliance Industries on board to pay for a platform. So, at times you don't need to run for it. People will give it to you when you're working for it. Then what we did is we carried out training for them. The first 2 days of training for them was on simulation, and straightly we were not going out for calls. We said that for next 2 days, we are not flying this platform because every time you fly this platform, you land up 3 days of downtime. Plus you land up damaging the equipment. We also realized that a lot of UAVs which are across there in the industry, they are flown from a laptop. And especially Indian manufactured UAV. Went one step ahead and we said we give the remote control hand so that you operate it as simple as a DJI, which is very easy. And I would like to admit none of us are very close to DJI. So that ease was very important. When the training got over and we went into the deployment phase, the other part of such emergencies is media follows you. So there is always a pressure, and every time there used to be a media in, they would like you to be present on site. Now this pressure is very tremendous. The picture what you see here is one of the most populated area of Dharavi, which was boiling with COVID patients. The space from where we took off the UAV was hardly 3.5 feet. The platform itself is close to a meter in size. So we had to get in a pilot. I had my CTO who was standing there himself to fly because they wanted to show this across. So you need to keep in mind, though the organizations are also trying to put it across, there is a pressure also on you to perform, pressure on you to be at your best. So it's not that if you do a mistake, they will let you go. It's a part that if you're carrying out your duty, they want you to do it in the best way. So keep this in mind. And always, when you are out there on the field, they're going to look at you as somebody who is an expert, somebody who understands, who's going to do it right, and somebody who's not going to do a mistake, who's not going to falter, because already there is a lot of pressure. So this was another thing which we were facing in. Also, I realized that every time such an opportunity come up, my team had to go on field. So I had to take a call at a point, and I had to tell the police that, hey, look, from this time onward, it is going to be round, and if they need extra sessions, we are going to train them. Because as a manufacturer, if we would have been flying continuously, then there was a high risk that we would have landed getting positive also. And then the whole manufacturing would have stopped. So then we were concentrating only for manufacturing, supplying, and training. This is where, and these conscious call, along with Mumbai Police, along with Drone Federation of India, and mind you, Ruchi, she would have not realized that what magic she played in all this. But actually, her guidance a lot, because she has been in these scenarios a lot number of times, really helped me to take my right decisions. Because there were times I had to say no. There were times when we were being pushed. So we should also take a leap of faith, which should be right. We should not land up taking a leap of faith where you yourself will land up in a problem. So then on-site deployments came in. When the on-site deployments came in, what we realized was, okay, we have provided a platform. How could the application be enhanced? And in the scenario where we were passing on the messages across via the cell phones, we landed up rigging up a camera on board which could give you a real-time communication. So people can actually look at the platform, hear the message. At the same time, policemen on ground could actually look at the video and tell them to disperse. The other smart thing, and more you operate, more you understand, more applications comes out. So what we realized was there used to be flag marches, and these flag marches are where you'll have hundreds of policemen walking all together with a patrol van in front and doing announcements. So these slums have narrow passages leading into tributaries and then again dispersing into other capillaries inside. So with the coordination of policemen, we realized that we could have one policeman at every tributary, at every entrance. And what we do is we fly the drone across. Moment we see the platform, the policeman sees the UAV right on top of him, he starts making announcements. He hooks up to the platform by his cell phone and he starts making announcement for his street. Once he has done with his announcement, he disconnects and the UAV moves on to the next street. In this way, we were able to cover few kilometers. So at one run, we could do around 6-7 kilometers at a stretch. At the same time, as this UAV could be manually controlled, autonomously controlled, though it was a very frugal innovation, we could do multiple locations. So our pilots and operator could stay at a safe distance. The policemen who were doing announcements could stand in a street, hook up to the drone, look at the person and do the announcement, so they could keep themselves at bay and still operate it. So something which we had not envisaged. We had only envisaged for making a very seamless, clear communication system actually landed up enhancing the overall function of the drone. Then came the time to scale. So our decisions at start, where we said that, hey, look, we are manufacturers. We could help you get the platform. We could help you train them. We would come and see where you're going to operate. And if certain changes are required, we would do on that on the platform. But finally, you are going to fly it. So this helped us with just a team of 11, because out of 24, only 11 were functional. Rest everybody was from work for home. We were able to scale it into different districts of Maharashtra, Haryana, and also another state called Andhra Pradesh. Now, what we did here was we were learning from the examples and the requirement of the Mumbai police, and the same was very easy for us to deploy. So as they say, if you test your innovation, if you get a concurrence on your innovation, if you prove your innovation, then the acceptability becomes very high. And this exactly happened to us because we knew how the administration was going to function. We were crystal clear in our head that how the administration functions. We were crystal clear in our head how they're going to carry this platform in their vehicle. We were very crystal clear in our head what was the awareness level of the policeman on ground while he was going to operate it. So with these experiences, it became very easy for us to deploy. It became very easy for us to convince the local administration to utilize this drone. And in turn, being a profit for organizations, without making any profit, we were able to get the value of the investment we made into the platform. And that was the only reason we succeeded, because we had Drone Federation of India and I had Ruchi from Flying Labs helping me and chalking out my plans very clearly and very effectively. Then came, and that's why I say that, till now you guys would be thinking I'm a UAV based company, but that's not who we are. We are a robotics company. The other problem they were facing in was sanitization. And while we were also we were used to go down with the policemen on deliveries, on training, sitting in their platform, there was a scene of nausea, feeling nauseatic because they were spraying these pesticides, insecticides across to kill this coronavirus, and that was bringing in a lot of problem, health hazards, health issues. Plus, these chemicals was sticking to their tables, to their cars, and they were finding it very difficult to get rid of them finally. So they said, Nikunj, could you do something about this also because you're a robotics company? And I said, why not? And as we are working in, and you look across, and I said, administration is again your best and the very good friend in these scenarios. So we went to DRDO, which was based in Pune. I went to Mumbai police, said, I need a permission to travel to another district, which is good 150 kilometers from where I stay. So they gave me the permission because they were on board. Pune district gave me the permission because they wanted this thing to come up. We went to the Defense Research and Development Organization. We said, look, this is an idea. If you have a rover, so they had this rover which they use for bomb disposal. I said, I need a very cost-effective rover. We could mount UV lights onto it, and we could carry out sanitizations. And we are a robotics company. We'll do the app. We'll do the study around it. Within a span of 4 days, we had a rover. We had a manufacturer from India who supplied us free of cost of these lights and these emitters. And the first system got deployed with the Mumbai police. As of now, we already have 2 systems deployed with them. We have 1 system deployed with DRDO, and 5 we have sold across for profit to other customers. In turn, these systems are also helping me to sanitize and bring the level of sanitization very high in my company too. So we were able to give a virus-free environment. We did not stop at that. Now, as an innovator and as a company who really want to do your honest, we went ahead to the Institute of Virology and we got the equipment tested. We got it certified. So in current scenario, we not only went on to develop something which would support policemen, which would support local staff, which would support hospitals out there, but will also help me to monetize on this opportunity. And this is very important because non-profit emotions can help us to do our work. But for substance, for longevity, for sustainability, we need funds too. So this became an opportunity for us. So now we are manufacturing this at full scale. The same technology which is being used on our unmanned boats, which help to clean garbage, which is used by the armed forces, is now also helping these rovers to run autonomous. It can help the policeman to disinfect his office by 99.9%. What else level of comfort you can give to that policeman who goes out there with your UAV, flies it into the slums, comes back, puts it under your UVC light and gets it disinfected? Isn't that a peace of mind? So in certain emergencies, in certain pandemics, you should have a very positive outlook. You should not look at to monetize everything. And if you have that faith, trust in you, and if you are competent enough, opportunities will come across to you for monetizing it. So, what I have learned through shipping, what I have learned through a sailor out there on the high seas, what I have learned through, being part of a family business of 25 years, the most important part, whenever there is a problem, you look at it as an opportunity. But when you look at it as an opportunity, you keep your emotions on one side, put in your statistics on the other side, and then get an amalgamation of both and try to solve it. When you go about solving it, you will realize in the end is what you're going to gain from it is going to be a very large perspective. And what that large perspective will be? First, it will give you knowledge. Second, it will help you know your team much more better. Third, it will bring out the worst and best out of you. And fourth, it will be a very big opportunity out there. And this is exactly what we did. At start, sitting in my room, being a COVID suspect, the first one in my city to be, I never thought that I would get this humble opportunity to work with the Mumbai Police, to work with Drone Federation of India and with the Flying Labs to make sure to develop a product which was not part of our product which we supply to the armed forces and make sure it is successful. Not only successful, it is highly successful. So whenever there is a pandemic, look at it as an opportunity to test yourself. Don't get scared, but don't be overconfident. Judge it very well, take it very statistically, and I'm sure when you look at these 2 points, success is going to be at your doorsteps. That's from my end, and I keep the floor open for asking me questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikunj. You are giving me way too much credit.
Absolutely not.
I didn't do anything. I just raised a question and you found the answer. So thank you so much. But for me, the biggest takeaway from this, Nikunj, was that the way you said that we need to define our boundaries, but also sometimes take the leap of faith. Both of them are equally important. And second is preparation. Half of these problems would have been lesser had we prepared better. So we
Correct.
had one part of the preparation right, that we had a local teams ready across the country. Now this task was started about 2 years back with the formation of UAV Rapid Response Task Force, when we started doing capacity building across the country for using drones in emergencies. We had a good database of drone pilots who were already pre-trained. But what we didn't have on our side was policies. Even when 200 pilots were flying across the countries, there were no exemptions available. It all happened
Yeah.
15, 20 days later, when most of the operations were already done. Then the exemptions came in. But then, if you would not have taken the leap of faith and actually did it, it happened pan India, and the pressure of the news and the media forced the government to take the steps towards the policies. So first comes the dare, and then comes the support. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen the other way around. And the third
True.
is, the way we develop trust in our local innovators. We realize that in emergencies you can't depend upon imports. Now this is first kind of pandemic in our lifetime that we are facing, but it may not be the only one. This is just a
True.
pandemic, but there may be more things which are coming around the corner. Who knows? A third world war is just around the corner. Who knows? You
True.
really cannot depend upon import. You have to depend upon your local innovators, local researchers, and give them the opportunity to just prove their best, and they will not disappoint you for sure. And
True.
last thing that we all have to take care of is that never misuse technology.
True.
People and the government both have to develop a trust in technology. And this happens when we use the technology in the best interest of the people, not overriding their personal rights or using it to punish them or criminalize them, but it's just to support them in their healthcare or in their safety or whatever. So these are the few things which I got from your presentation, Nikunj, and I really thank you. And I request everyone to please post in your questions. Why is the class so quiet today?
Hello, ma'am. Amit here.
Hi, Amit.
Waiting for the questions.
I think Nikunj, everybody is so thrilled with your presentation that they're all spellbound. They're still figuring out what to ask you. Otherwise, by now we would have had at least 5-10 questions. Somebody is asking me.
First question.
Yeah, Amit, you can ask.
How was the logistics of battery swapping handled, and were there any issues for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first prototype, and it's a really good question because the first prototype came in on this platform had cable ties and actually sellotapes which we had put across. Then what we realized was, the moment this first drone started flying in, we had to really work hard on the batteries. And I was very lucky that I have a lot of manufacturing facility inside my own premises. So we were able to do that in 10 days time after delivering the first platform. And we did that changes on the battery swapping and on the battery handling. And we delivered the second drone. We took back the first one, did that change onto it, and resupplied it to the police. So yes, that was there, and we solved it this way.
Okay, so
Nikunj, how important were SOPs for your operation? Like, did you have spelled out SOPs, or it was all happening on the ground? Like, it was more fluid?
No, so SOPs were done, and the first SOP was none of my team members would sit in a police car. Second, the vehicle had to be always from our side, so that vehicle would be used. Second, everybody sitting in the vehicle, we'll have, maintaining a distance also inside. So then the vehicle would not have more than 4 people sitting together. Once the platform is with the police, we are not going to touch the platform. The only equipment we would touch would be the remote control, and we would sanitize it and touch across. Distance maintaining was, we used to wear head caps at times. Initially, the SOPs were fluid in first 4 to 5 days. But when we realized the scenario, we started sticking onto it very strictly. So we used to maintain a very strict diet. We would not stick across. On the contrary, we would carry our food from our house. And that thing is something we would have it inside our vehicle itself, not even in the police premises. And the distance would always be maintained very strictly. So these SOPs were always there, so that the SOPs were not very less for flying the UAV, but more for taking care of ourselves in health and hygiene, so that we do not land up becoming a COVID, because the platform would fly. And the biggest challenge in Dharavi while flying was the lot of buyers were there, and you would have a bunch of net, actually like spider nets across. So the beauty of the platform was we would have one observer, one pilot, and the observer would guide the pilot. You take it to the left 10 meters, then you go up, then you bring it to the right another 10 meters, you go up, and you bring it in. So SOPs would be followed this way. In parallel, in the initial 20 days when we were ourselves going on the field, we would have a laptop rigged up on Wi-Fi inside the computer inside the car as a station, where my CTO would keep looking at the product, so that if there is a failure, because it was quite a heavy equipment, 6 kg equipment, it should not land up on the slum. So even if there is a worst emergency, he would try to take over the control and make sure if there is a crash, it doesn't land on top of the slums. So these procedures we did for 20 days, because this was a very big platform. There was a lot of amount of used batteries onto it. So we took these procedures, but we never told the customer about it. I'm being very open here, because that would have panicked them. So at times you need to tell a lie, and you say that we have done it. You don't tell them that we have manufactured it before, but you tell them it's working fine. So when you tell them working fine, you take all your safety precautions in background and allow them to jump on the leap of faith. So they did that. And the best part of it was, I'm sure if people would have read, especially from India, in a place called Bandra here in Mumbai, at somewhere around 4:35 in the evening, we saw a crowd of 3,000 people collecting all of a sudden. The only platform which could really fly there was our platform. Even the DJI, due to high power electrical lines, they could not take off. So we had the local MLA making announcements on our platform from there. So this was a kind of a very good feeling for us, that yes, the technology is there. It would be refined over the years to come, but yes, it would work. So these were the certain SOPs and feedbacks we used to get from the ground, and we used to cater it. After 1 month onto the field, I decided not to go anymore, because situation was really going very bad. And if we had to scale up with a team of 11, I could not go out there and perform it. So one stage we said, policemen, that, sir, this is my limitation. If it's an extreme emergency, you do not have anyone to fly and you need it, we will be there. But I'm sure you won't have that problem at all. So we started concentrating on manufacturing and supplying and training more.
And how easy or difficult it is to fly your platform? Like, can I learn it, or anybody
Yes.
can learn it, or is it you need experienced pilots to take over?
Absolutely not. You do not need experienced pilots to take over. Though we had Yash Patel, Captain Yash Patel, he was one who was flying our platforms. What you require is a confidence, because this platform is big. So people who have been flying DJI, there is a certain mindset. But what I really want to make across to everybody here, who is listening, you need to understand. And I'm sure everybody would have faced this. So when you try to take DJI and fly it, 99, I say it this way, that 99% it will not fly. And 1% when it will fly, it will not crash. Now try to understand my perspective. If there is a high tension wire and you go to fly DJI, it will say high interference, it will not fly. If there is high magnetic current from a mobile cell phone tower, you send it to 200 meters, it will come back and say it will not fly, it will land. It will go 20 meters, it will say airspace restricted, it will not fly. But what happens with manufacturers for us? Our drones are meant to fly 99%. And 1% it is meant not to fly. That means when she is physically damaged. So if you put the joystick up, that damn thing is going to go up in the air. Whether there is an interference, it doesn't matter to it. You want to take it 50 meters close to a high tension wire, take it. Well, she will go there. Then you need your skills to control it. So that's a difference between a product which is already there in the market and a product like us, because we are saying that these fail safes have been removed. So in Dharavi, this was a problem with other manufacturers also. I don't want to quote them, but their equipments were not able to fly because it needed certain spaces, it needed GPSs, it needed these, they could not fly near the high tension wire, they needed laptops to fly. Our system was said, you fly it, its wire it is there, it will go up in the air. So these are the points you have to look at when defining that in emergency conditions, what is the requirement? Do you need to put that in requirement or you want to live with fail safes? So when you say it's easy, I would say, yes, it is easy. But when you look at DJI to fly it, I'll say, it's tough. Because yes, it's going to, you need those a bit of skill sets at times. So certain conditions, when you have open ground, it flies like a DJI. In certain conditions where it is very restricted airspace of just 4 feet, then you need your piloting skills.
Great. Amit, do you want to ask the other questions which have been coming?
Yes, ma'am. But prior that, I have my own question also. So, as you said that your drones have a issue with magnetic field, every drone has. So similarly, when you're using a megaphone, you also adapt to the magnetic interference that is going to happen in the mag. So did you counter that with a shielding, or did you let it fly with that and manually adjust it?
No. So with the megaphone up there sticking right into the belly of the UAV, the interference was tremendous. And I would not like to put that Faraday's and Tesla's unit figure also here. So it was pretty bad. So just not
almost the mag won't work.
Yes. So you would not be able to take off the drone. Moment you switch it into the auto mode, she would take a circle and come down. So what we do is on our platforms, though, as we have our own autopilots, we also have a special sensor, which is pretty independent sensor from what UAV pilots, UAV manufacturers use. So this sensor we use from our boats, and this is mounted on our boats, and that sensor was applied here. Along with that, if you look at my presentation, you would see the secondary GPS has been mounted slightly up.
Right.
So that was for the case of having the GPS on top, so that takes care of that magnetic interference. But with respect to heading, I had a different proprietary sensor on board from one of our OEMs.
Okay. So there are other questions coming up. Did you do crowd surveillance and monitoring tasks using your systems?
Yeah, so initially we were not doing that. Initially, our requirement was to send across the message when we did give the first aircraft. But then we realized is great. Their other need was to do a crowd monitoring also. So on the same screen, what we did is again a frugal innovation. The RF system was capable of transmitting audio and video. We were only giving the data. So what we did was we mounted a GoPro on top of it, and it was live. So they had a beautiful video out there with a simple GoPro. And trust me, so at times they were using the GoPro on the UAV. At times they were removing and clicking pictures all around. So it was a fun game for us, but they were able to monitor, they were able to look at it. And as I said during my presentation is, we followed a very different approach also. As this UAV could fly for a few kilometers, it could be connected via a cell phone. So you can dial up the UAV and connect and talk. We had one policeman standing at every corridor of the street. So moment the UAV is on that corridor street and we are seeing it on a video feed, now this policeman would connect to the UAV and we would move the UAV up and down that street. Once his message is gone, so he can see 200 meters from his eyes, the UAV shifts over to the next tree. And that way, the efficiency was also increasing. So one, you could see a standing policeman there. At the same time, you had a bird on your head, which was actually telling you, please go inside your house. So that's how the application was used in.
So the spot is made to work really easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Very easy.
Okay, so another question coming up from Radhika that did you have any lack of components because of the lockdown?
Yes, absolutely. So I would be very honest, and I would not hide from that. Is so we get two most important part for is the motors and propellers.
Okay.
Prop is something I could have 3D molded and did a carbon fiber molding and done it in my in house. Worst, when you say push come to shove.
Right.
But motor was something we do not manufacture. So we have two players. One is China, we all know that, though a lot of people label it, and other was from UK. So UK counterparts. So on our second platform, we had a UK motor. On our first platform, we had it from China. So these things got stuck for us. The best what happened was in the other deliveries, we had the UK imports happening and the motors were coming in. So for good 1 month, we only had the capacity to supply 4 platforms. But after 1 month, the logistics supply chain and essential service were kicked in, and we were able to get our set of motors and propellers. Whereas RF systems, autopilots, that was not a problem because we do all these manufacturing in-house, and we had the stock for good for 100 plus platforms. But yes, motors and propellers where I was stuck, and without them, there was no road ahead for a month for sure.
Okay, so there's another question from Mayank. How does the UV robot work out for a value chain positioning perspective for your company?
Absolutely. So when you're looking at value chain positioning perspective for my company, what we have put across is I am not a disinfecting company. So what we always say is we are a robotics company. The robot which is being used has been being used for bomb disposal, has been used for IED, intelligent explosive device disposal. The only thing what we did here was the need of the hour was put these LED emitters on top, program it. So it really brought us on a very good presence actually in, and where, as you say, you need to pivot also at times. And if you look at the business line across the globe, you look at Microsoft, you look at Apple, you look every 2 to 3 years, they would pivot in their business model. So this is one thing which opened for us to show, hey, look, there is a medical fraternity also which can have autonomous systems to it. And I look at it as an autonomous system. I don't look at it as an UV robot. I look at it as an autonomous system. And this autonomous system, which can be used by the army, which can be used by the navy on the high seas, can be used also by our doctors and medical fraternity. And this was something which we had never ever looked across. If this pandemic would have not happened, I would have never given a second thought to it. But yes, it opened the doors. It also brought in a capability that a lot of pitch presentations where I do to the investors, I say, hey, look, the logo of our company is intelligence open to ideas. We say that. So we say it's only till the time we have not got an opportunity to work on. So it was an opportunity and we started working on ground vehicles. It's as simple as that for us. So it just proves of what we say is that we are intelligence open to ideas.
Okay, so another question.
Hey, I just had a follow-up.
Okay, you can go on.
If I could just clarify, hey, thanks a lot for answering the question. So my question was more like, I get the innovation and it's very commendable that you were able to deploy them at such a quick timeline, even in the police stations. But like say right now, the pandemic is for all intents and purposes still extending. If somebody were to contact you for say 150 such UV disinfectant units, will you still have to get the platform from DRDO or to make something in-house, or you would get the platform from DRDO, put the lights and the firmware and then ship it? Or has there been some sort of tech transfer which allows you to manufacture were you to get a bigger order tomorrow?
The tech transfer has happened and we are allowed to manufacture it.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah, since I'm here, like one more question I had was you spoke about how you had this big advantage on your drones because you were able to remove these fail safes which would prevent something like a DJI from flying. So, from what I understood, right now skillful pilots are the main fallback that you were using, right? Because these were challenging conditions to fly. But is that the case that it's only all on the pilots and their skill, or are there other technologies which are there in your drone whose level of aggression is customizable?
Yeah, absolutely. So skillful pilot was only till for just 10 days. So that's why I said that in a pandemic, we all rushed to deliver platforms and start flying it. We did not concentrate for training at first. But when the crash happened, we realized the training is very important because the skillful pilot, Captain Patel, was already out of picture by then. So here, the policemen were, we trained them within 7 days of time. And those skill sets, and as you said rightly, the drone was tuned to certain requirements of the policemen, in which in certain conditions they could do an auto takeoff, in certain conditions they could do an
Sure.
altitude takeoff. So those were actually done on the platform and made it very easy for them. So those settings are there. It's always there inbuilt on the platform. It depends is in the scenario, on the field, how you can just do the changes as per the requirement. So the drone can adapt to the skills available at that time.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mayank.
So another question from my side was, as you talked about the RF modules, so you operated on two different modules or on the same module and on the same frequency?
COFDM. So it's a COFDM on the same module, on the same RF system.
Okay, sir.
Data and video both together.
I think, Nikunj, there are no more questions from our class today. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of my class, which are about 79 people from all across the world who are listening to you and who will be listening to the recording as well. Thank you so much for generously sharing your experiences and learnings with us. And I really hope that this is going to help us even in this course, because the reason I did this course during this time is because we ran about 3 webinars last month, but there had to be something more sustainable and more deeper than just the webinars. So that's the reason this course was
True.
launched. And the capacity building that we're talking about, so that more and more people get inspired by these ideas and they are ready to take the lead tomorrow. That's the intention of this course.
Sure.
And with your story, I think a lot of people are going to get inspired. Thank you so much for that. And thank you everybody for patiently listening to us tonight as well. Tomorrow is Sunday. Tomorrow we're going to have a special class again. And I would really welcome all of you to, if you want to have a presentation, you can do it tomorrow, or else we'll have a technical section. And next week onwards, we will get on to a new topic. Healthcare is over for today. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night.
Thank you so much. Good night.